Hi, I'm Mike Messier, and welcome to Short Film Showcase, where we feature the very best short films and their filmmakers from throughout New England and around the world. We're very happy to announce that this is our 50th anniversary episode. We have two very special in-studio guests, as well as some short films for you on this episode. Speaking of 50th anniversaries, Elaine Victoria Gray, our first guest, is it okay to mention that this year is a very special anniversary for you?
Yes, it's fine.
And that is your 50th wedding anniversary to your husband.
That's right. That's right, my 50th. And it's very apropos to be here with you today.
That's great.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, Elaine, it's very good to have you on the show as well. And I'm looking at your bio. You have a lot to talk about. You're a celebrated Boston artist, also a photographer, real estate consultant, and community leader. Speaking of community leading, I believe that you led the Watertown Center for the Arts, and you reside in Watertown, Massachusetts. Is that right?
That's right. I do. I lived there for 58 years, and back in the 1970s, I founded the Watertown Center for the Arts, and it took us over 30 years to finally have a Center for the Arts that's in a physical location at the Watertown Arsenal.
That's got to feel really good.
It feels wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so people don't always realize that these art councils and community groups, they don't come out of thin air. They come from hardworking people like yourself, usually volunteers,
Right.
who are putting so much time and effort into those programs.
That's right.
How do people in Watertown or throughout the country help with their local community arts? What would you advise?
Definitely, the art people should work together to make sure the arts programs stay within the community. And even if you don't have a physical space, if you have the programming in place and the opportunity comes to go after a space, even if it takes 30 years, it can happen.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. Let's talk about some more of your history. And you have some tie-ins with previous guests, and these are kind of fun for those who've been watching all 50 episodes of the Short Film Showcase. Give a little shout out to our producer, Brian Casey, real quick. But one of our previous guests, I believe her name is Brina Healy, did Transsexuals from Outer Space.
Right.
And what was your part in that piece?
Well, I wasn't in the original piece, but Brina's been adding, and so she asked myself and Dale Appel to join the cast, and we filmed this year, and she's incorporating it into the final film. And we are in a location in Boston and have a speaking role, and so does Dale.
Nice.
So we're excited about seeing the final results. We haven't seen it yet.
And Dale was on our show. Dale Appel was on our show previously.
Right.
And for those not familiar with Transsexuals from Outer Space, I mean, just the title alone, it's a rambunctious, kind of wild, piece. Mm-hmm. And when you're involved in something like that, Elaine, how do you prepare? How do you get into the mindset? Like, okay, this is going to be out there. Like, how do you prepare for that?
Well, I have seen the show, the movie that she has, that she's still working on, and I thought she did a wonderful job, basically with just having it be, it's a black and white mostly. Right. And it takes you on back to Buck Rogers type of days. Yeah. And it's really a very good, I liked the film and I wanted to be in it. Nice. So I'm glad I had that opportunity.
Just to go a little wild. It's fun sometimes. And that's, right. As actors, we're allowed that opportunity to kind of put our hair down and go nuts with something.
Right, and Brina's a wonderful person. She's generous and she's sweet, and I'm really happy to be associated.
That's great. And we talk about your own history, training in acting at Harvard. Now that's got to be something special.
It is. It's special. What happened is in 1997, I was running for office for town council, and it was my second run, and I had my nomination papers. My husband said, no, you're not running again because it's just really too much for us.
Right.
So it was, the signs were starting to come out on the lawns. They were popping up everywhere. So I said to him, I've always wanted to go to Harvard. And if you back me up on that, I'll withdraw my nomination papers.
Okay.
So I signed up, and 3 years later I became a candidate. In 2003 I got my associate's, and in 2006 I got my bachelor's. But as an adult learner, I had to, it was difficult to take more than one class.
Right.
And to pay attention to math and Greek literature and everything else that you have to take care of. So I would take an acting and directing class, or theater history, or musical theater, and for the 9.5 years, that's what I did, and that's how I made it through.
That's great.
9.5 years at night at Harvard Extension School, and
Wow.
I got to walk in 2003. But my advisor said to me, do you realize you've taken enough classes in acting and directing and whatnot, in dramatic arts, that you can petition the school to give you a field of study in dramatic arts.
Wow.
And you need to write a paper to us telling why, and we need to have all your grades in order. And if they agree, you will, at graduation, also have a field of study, which is equivalent to a master's.
Nice.
So I did.
So you did that,
I
and
did
you got
it.
the field of study, which is equivalent to a master's. That's terrific.
Yeah,
That's awesome. That's got to feel great.
it did. It does. I just feel it was a tribute to my dad, my family, and to my grandmother, who helped to support me to go there.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you're taking those classes, for those who, we always try to bring our show out to people that are novices. So the people out there who have never taken an acting class, and they say, gee, acting class, and I coach acting myself. So, but what are people out there? What can they expect in a general sense overall from an acting class? What would you say about that?
You will always come out of there with some knowledge, something that will benefit you to move on and to spur you on to want to take more classes. I'm still taking classes. I just got out of Carolyn Pickman's class and Tom Kemp's class because I learned something every time I go. And I think that anybody that's interested in getting into the field, just take one class at a time.
Right.
And then move on to the next. And you learn something from that teacher. I learned from my professors at Harvard and from the people in our field that have classes, such as Angela Perry at Boston Casting, and Carolyn Pickman's classes at CP Casting, and Ann Mulhill, and all of the people in the business. Yeah.
I was just making...
Jody Purdy,
Oh,
she
yeah.
gave me my first shot at The Rude, the Mad, and the Funny,
Nice.
which just premiered
That's
this
great.
year.
Let's get to The Rude, the Mad, and Funny just one moment, but I want to build on something you just said, that you've taken these acting classes with the casting directors. And I was just on social media the other day, and this topic came up. I think people need to take acting classes with casting directors because that gets you on the radar of the casting director. And some people might argue, well, it's a conflict of interest, or blah, 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 blah. But the reality is, in this business, everything is kind of overlapping, and people do more than one thing. And so you might as well take an acting class with the casting director, because that's the person who might get you work.
That's right. A lot of people say, don't pay to play.
Right.
But, if you're going to take a class, why not take, as you said, with the casting director? They get to know you, you get to know what they like, and you can hone your skills and your headshots and your resumes and everything just by listening to them and what people are looking for.
Right.
And if you take them with more than one casting director, you're getting a picture.
Yes.
Because as soon as I graduated from Harvard, I started sending out my photos and building my resume. And what I learned was that from them that I could improve.
Right.
And I did that, and I kept wanting to hear more from them. What can I do? What can I do? Now I'm looking to get more speaking roles. That's what I want.
That's great.
And hoping that's going to happen for me as an adult actor.
Just going back to what you said, and we can talk acting all day, you know. But I had a headshot and your headshot looks terrific right here. But my headshot once was slaughtered by a friend of mine, Chris Chula, who did a workshop, Actors to LA.
Oh, I know Chris Chula.
You know Chris?
Yeah.
And he said, I think he used the term "pooey" for my headshot. So some of these teachers don't pull any punches.
No, they don't.
Let's go back to The Rude, the Mad, and the Funny.
Okay.
That's the title of the piece?
Yes, David Garfield's movie, and that was the first one that I was cast in with Jodie.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed working on it so much and meeting people in the field, because it's very important to build your network of people.
Right.
And that was a good network for me because there were so many involved in the cast.
Nice.
And on that film, I got to dance with Dan Marshall. He taught us the salsa and the tango. And
Wow.
I got to tango with him, and he's a fabulous choreographer. So that was fun
Yeah.
for me, you know, and yeah, you're right. It's taken a while to have our premiere, but the premiere timing is everything, isn't it? Now
Yes.
with Wahlburgers, and that's where the premiere after party was.
Right.
But having the Patriot Cinema right there and having Wahlburgers adjacent to it, it turned it into a reunion,
Nice.
a reunion of that network. So
That's fabulous.
yeah, that was great.
And people sometimes, as they're going from novice and getting started, they don't realize that you have to get yourself out there. And when I was getting started, the same thing is, you have to do projects that are new people to network,
Right.
and just to get going, And but looking at your resume, you're far beyond that at this point, because I'm looking at all these projects, and we're talking about American Hustle. Now, you were telling me off camera a little bit about how that you got to work on American Hustle a little bit. Tell me about that.
That was exciting because I had gone through a period of being very sick for a year, and was wondering, this was last year, how was I going to get back into the business?
Right.
Because when you're that ill, at my age, it's difficult to get back. And the phone rang. I was on the couch resting, and the phone rang, and they said, would you like to work on American Hustle? Of course I would.
Right.
Not knowing whether I could or not.
Sure.
I said yes. And they said, do you think you can go for a fitting tomorrow? By all means. My first time driving in 5 months.
Wow.
So I made my way into Boston. I got fit for my outfits. And they said, next week you'll work. So I rested. And the following week I went and I showed up. And the fitter looked at the clothes that they picked and said, no, she needs gowns. She needs jewels. They put a fur coat on me. I mean, it brought me back to life, and I said, I can do this.
Wow.
And it was, American Hustle means something really special to me, even though all my scenes were cut.
What a business, huh?
Yeah, it's a crazy business, huh? Yeah.
Maybe they made DVD bonus or something, you never know.
He did talk about that. David O. Russell was on an interview, and he said he loved all the scenes. He wanted them all in there, but
Right.
he couldn't have them. They were all special to him. And he said he thought he was going to do some outtakes on the DVD.
Or maybe director's cut
Yeah.
will be released at some point. And you know what? Let's jump into that a little bit, because as an actor, you work so hard on a character in a film particularly, and then sometimes these things happen where they cut their scenes. Emotionally, what do you go through when that happens?
I think if I hadn't gone through what I just explained about the ball gowns and American Hustle, it might have been even more of a disappointment, because it's a disappointment. You
Right.
work hard, you're there. People don't understand what goes into working on a film unless they're in the business.
Right.
And it also teaches you, not to say too much until you see the film yourself
Exactly.
to modify, because you get so excited in the beginning. You want everybody to know. So it does, you just move on to the next project
Right.
and say, maybe I won't get cut next time, and maybe, you know, I'll be featured, or maybe I won't be blurry.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
you go through all these emotions and feelings, but it's a wonderful business. It's so much fun. It's what I want to do for the rest of my life.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And you're right. People don't realize how tough it is, you know, to be an actor. And even the greatest, most famous actors like a Matt Damon had an interview. I think it was Matt Damon who said, "I often get the scripts with Brad Pitt's fingerprints on them." You know,
Right, right.
even those guys are competing and jostling for positions, and it's just
And being cut.
Yeah,
in,
and being
in scenes
cut.
that they loved.
right.
So,
right.
you know, we're all in it together. And, you know, if you're working background actor, they can't make a film without background actors.
Right.
And you're very involved, and you are acting. You just maybe are not speaking.
Right.
And you may get pointed out and handpicked, and say, come with me.
Yeah.
You know, that's how it works. And
Yeah.
you never know. Opportunities are always around every corner.
It's very, very, very interesting. And you did worked on the movie that was filmed, the Untitled Woody Allen Project, that was filmed in Rhode Island, my home state.
Right.
And what was that experience like, witnessing the Woody magic?
Thanks to Ann Mulhall at LDI Casting,
Yeah.
I was able to work on that, and I worked on it 2 days, I think, and I was handpicked
Right.
for a scene, and that to me was so exciting to have him as my director. He's such a icon
Right.
that I wanted to work on it, but then to get handpicked and to be in a very small scene with the principals.
And who were
There's
they
nothing
again?
like it. I always have a difficult time saying his name. It's Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin
Yeah,
Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
Terrific.
And Emma Stone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're top people.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I played in that one. I played a mother of a student,
Yep.
and I'm anxious to see the finished product. But just to work with him was, in his crew and cast and the way they operated, it was a lot of good experience, and you know, something I won't forget.
I think people need to realize, once again, for the people out there that want to get into acting and have never done it, these experiences, whether it's background work or featured roles, such as you did in Transsexuals from Outer Space, you have to prepare, and even if you brought on set and you weren't given the script, you have to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I did a little thing where I was an HBO thing, and I was working with Richard Jenkins, and I had to smoke a fake cigarette, and I was chomping on that fake cigarette as if it was the most important thing in the world to me, you know, because it was a scene at a wake and et cetera, and I really had to play nervous and edgy,
Right.
you know, and we have a few minutes left, so we're talking about a piece called Spotlight. Do you want to mention Spotlight at all?
Yeah, I just worked on Spotlight, and I worked in, I believe, 3 scenes, and that's another film that it's close to my heart. I went to Catholic school up until the 8th grade, and so it's about the cover-up, the Boston Globe discovery of the cover-up with the Catholic Church
Wow.
in Boston. So to work on that is very meaningful to me and close to my heart. So, and I had a montage that I was in, and who knows if that's going to get cut, and another walk-on scene that I'm excited about.
Great.
But we won't know till you go to the premiere, right?
You know what?
That's the business.
The movie is not finished until somebody's watching it. You know,
That's
that's what
right.
I always say. And
That's right.
as in front of the camera, behind the camera, it's so much hard work, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you really have to be dedicated. We just have a few seconds left, Elaine. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything you want to say to anybody?
I would say to anybody that's watching to do it. If you've thought about it, I thought about it since I was 12. I always wanted to do it. And to get into it is just like it's just amazing at my stage in life, being able to be retired and have the time available and to be able to work on building my craft. Like, it's going to keep me young.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, and so it will keep our audience young if they decide to do this or anything else artistic that they
Right.
want to do, especially to the children. You know, that's our legacy.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
I
Thank you for
appreciate it,
having
Elaine.
me, Mike.
Thank you. Elaine Victoria Gray.
Yes.
Right now on Short Film Showcase, we'd like to feature some short films from Friday Night Films' Jim McDonough. Let's check him out right here on Short Film Showcase.
Flu and cold keeping you awake?
Yes.
You need Universal Global Medicorp's new Cold Away Day and Cold Away Night combo pack. The new environmentally friendly combo pack combines both pills in one bottle, reducing waste by 50%. Take 2 pills with the letter I for nighttime relief. Take 2 pills with the number 1 for daytime relief. Saying goodbye to your cold is that simple.
Is that an eye?
Warning, do not take both a Cold Away Day pill and Cold Away Night pill at the same time.
What?
Side effects include a visit from the spirit guide.
By the long face.
Do not look the spirit guide in the eyes. And refrain from looking in the mirror for 9 hours.
Interspecies merger is the only path to true enlightenment.
Well, my cold does feel better.
Repeat the dosage.
Under no circumstance are you to take instruction from the spirit guide.
Repeat the dosage and I'll take you home. Good, Manicorn. It's time to go home. See?
Universal Global Medicorp. Universal Global Medicorp's parent company, Xingshang Organic Children's Snacks Substitutes, nor any of its affiliates can be held responsible for wormhole travel taken under the influence of Universal Global Medicorp's Cold Away.
I'm really fast.
Upon your space travel, you may use your horn for self-defense and not for evil.
But that planet looks stupid.
Manicons using horn power for evil can expect to be summoned to Dimension 32C, where the Dolphin God, Pigman Zeef, and Ryan from Cranston, Rhode Island will decide your fate. Governing bodies will remove your Manicorn powers and transport you back to your humble Homo sapien form. May God have mercy on your soul.
Oh boy. Ow. Cold's gone.
Daddy?
Right now on Short Film Showcase, it's my honor to welcome a very special guest, Reno Venturi. Reno.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
We were joking around a little bit off camera. Did I get the name the right way?
Absolutely. I'm almost the name of two cities, Reno and Venturi, but you did well.
Thank you. I'm Messier, so I've been, the
Yeah,
victim.
I know. I'm always correcting people on your last name.
Thank you. We have some things in common. Your resume is stacked, so we could talk all day. But I know you. I met you first as a coach for a class at the Actors Gym, which is your very special place in Connecticut, and I contacted you to take one of your classes, directing actors for the camera, I believe it was.
That was it.
Yeah.
That's right. It was a great class. It was fun having you there.
Thank you. I remember emailing you a bunch of questions about the class, and you're like, "Are you just going to show up or not?" So it was cool. I really enjoyed it, and it was fun to meet you there and see your actors and your ensemble of students. And tell us about the Actors Gym first, because this way people can come see you and take some classes.
Well, the Actors Gym was kind of a needed, something that was really needed. There was really no safe place for actors to come get training. I originally started teaching in the first place because I felt like actors were being taken advantage of by a number of unsavory characters out there.
Yes.
And because I'm a casting director and I'm always looking for actors, I thought, well, what better way than to create a space? So I built a small theater, and as you know, it's kind of a friendly place. It's a place where you're allowed to fail, and there's always an angel will come by and pick you back up, and you learn that way. And I decided to start offering anything and everything that the public asked for. So that's what we do there, and I'm really excited about it because we're going into like 13 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's a good location because, from my point of view, it's within driving distance of Rhode Island or Boston or even New York.
New York, yeah. Everything's like an hour and a half, one way or another. And we're right next to Yale University, so there's a lot of things going on there. And I cast actually tri-state area. I actually cast in Florida as well. So it's nice to be able to get actors out of Massachusetts and get actors out of even Vermont and get them involved and get them working in this industry.
And some of the actors you've had at the Actors Gym are involved in a web series, I believe, that you're behind. Tell us about the web series.
Well, I decided that my actors needed to know. First of all, I grew up in Paramount Studios. I grew up, learning how to do everything. Because if you love this industry, you want to always be working in it. So if you're not working as an actor, at least know how to do something else. So, you don't have to run off to, work for some fast food company or something. You can stay in the industry. And so I decided that it would be great to start a production company that's run by my actors so that they learn every facet of the business. So we started Let's Do This Productions, and I had an actor who had written a film. And I decided that financially, that's kind of an expensive proposition to produce, as we know, a feature film.
Right.
So I said, how about we break it up, turn it into a web series, and that way I can teach my actors how to develop scripts, how to run cameras, how to do lighting, makeup, publicity.
Right.
Anything, even editing, those things like that, and scoring music and all that. So we started a web series called Pleading Sanity, put it up about a year ago, and we're now into our second season, getting ready to release episode 5. And it turns out that we've got quite a following. And just recently I was approached by somebody in the UK that said they would like to show it on their regular TV.
Wow.
So we said, okay. And they said, we'd like to run it on our web station first for a while. How would you feel about that? Well, I did it as a way to teach people, and it sort of turned into its own a little
Enigma.
Yeah, it's an
Wow.
enigma, that's for sure. But it's doing well. In the meantime, we started another web series called Diogenes the Vlog, which is mostly a single character. But the idea really is to get actors out there working and learning every facet of the business.
What I liked about the web series Pleading Sanity, it hooks you right in because the opening credits are very professional.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, did you do those yourself? Or
We
have
did.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Yeah. What we've done is we've tried to train people how to do a lot of rough editing.
Right.
And so those of us who actually edit will go in there and we can tighten it up. And I really wanted something special to start it off. And the opening theme song was sent to me about maybe 3 years ago by a young fellow that said, I wrote this song for you and I know one day you'll want to use it for something, so it's yours, you own it. And honestly, as soon as we started doing this show, I heard that, and I said, we got to build credits around this amazing theme song. And people say, I listen to the opening sometimes 3 or 4 times just to hear the song. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Where do people find Pleading Sanity on the internet? How will they find it?
Well, it's actually on Vimeo.
Okay.
Vimeo.com, but ultimately right now what's happened is if you type in Pleading Sanity online on Google, it comes up all over the place.
That's
'Cause
gotta
it's-
feel good.
It does. It's so nice to be recognized that way and for people to see us. And I tell other people that have started web series, they go, well, no one watches our web series. I said, sometimes it takes
Right.
2 years before suddenly people go, oh my God, did you see this web series? So again, I didn't start it out to be, the most popular web series on TV. I started out as a training tool, but it has turned into something that honestly, I get excited every time we release an episode. And I just saw the one, my editor's been working on the newest episode that's coming out, and I swear each episode, they just get better and better. So Vimeo.com is the main place to find it, though.
Nice. And they put in the search engine on Vimeo, Pleading Sanity, it will take you right there.
Yes, and don't say insanity, because a lot of people put pleading insanity. I go, no, it's pleading sanity, just
Right.
yes.
Nice. And the evolution of media with the web series coming in, we'll just touch on this briefly, is that, 15, 20 years ago, you had your theater or your film or your TV. Those were your primary outlets for entertainment, or stand-up comedy, that type of thing.
Right.
But now, with web series and other evolutions of entertainment, it's really empowering to the no-budget producer.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
exciting.
Well, I think it's exciting because so many people can enter this media that couldn't actually get involved with it before because they just didn't have, the funds to do that. And people are always doing fundraising to do projects, which I recently did for a film that I directed called The Coyote. But honestly, I typically just finance it myself and say we got to stay within this constraint. And let's rely on talent and ability to make this thing, amazing. Because it isn't the amazing camera that you bought. It really is the operator. So
It's the story and,
Yep.
and the production of.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
Tell me, storytelling begins, in my opinion, with theater, going back to Shakespeare, the Greeks, the Romans, all
Absolutely.
these folks, and you have done. I imagine the theater you've done. I mean, we have it here, but just tell us about some of your favorite stories, some of your favorite memories of doing theater, live theater.
Well, I mean, my foundation really was primarily musical theater early on, and I grew up in California as an actor, and because I could sing and I had, a very wide range, I got really involved with doing that, and I always loved that live, immediate response. And I did a lot of shows as a young actor, but they told me I had to be a better actor in order to do more musicals, because I was a singer. So that's when Paramount took me and started training me. But I still have a big foundation in theater and live theater. And I did everything from Shakespeare to like I said, musicals. I toured in Man of La Mancha as the lead in that, which honestly was probably one of my fondest memories, because I actually turned down the role a number of times. And then finally my agent said, you really should do this show. It'd be great on your resume. So when I ended up doing it, it ended up being one of the most amazing experiences for me, because it was almost like I watched it every night, because I
Right.
got so into the character. I never remembered doing it, but actually living it, experiencing it. And to do that in front of a live audience is kind of an amazing thing. But foundationally, it was good for me then working in the other media, film and video and those things like that. Because if you can survive live theater, you can survive anything.
Yeah, the critiques of the audience. Just as a quick thing, I was doing live dinner theater once, which is like the boot camp in my experience, and a nice little old lady decided to put her finger on my body, like in an intimate place. I won't tell you where.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
It was very intimate. But I mean, the stories we could tell, the Fantastics, 1940s radio show,
Yep.
The Diaries of Adam and Eve,
Yep.
I mean, just all these, and I mean, just when people think of theater, they think of that raw energy of the performer with the audience.
Yes.
Is that a rush for you, Reno?
To me, it's a huge, huge rush. And honestly, I swear I can absolutely feel it. Because a lot of times when you're on stage, you've got all the lights kind of blinding you, but you can feel it. Except when my mom was in the audience, because she was my best fan. And for some reason, even in the dark, I could find her smile. We'd have 10,000 people in the theater, and I could find her smile.
That's terrific.
But funny things happen, and you learn to survive. You learn to get through it. I remember I was doing She Loves Me many years ago, and I was busy. I was the lead singing the main song, and all of a sudden somebody shot me right in the with some object. I didn't know what it was, and I happened to just keep singing after I dodged it, and I looked down, and it was the bass player with his big acoustic bass, and the bridge had literally dislodged and came flying. I mean, he's looking at me like this.
Zoinks.
And you just keep going, no matter what.
The show must go on.
But it is a great charge. Doing Adam and Eve, I actually I did it one time on a big stage, and then I did it in dinner theater, and we were so close to the audience that I actually kicked a menu out of somebody's hand while I crossed my legs in the scene. So anything can happen. It really prepares you.
It just makes me laugh as doing dinner theater, because I've done that many times. And I always think, like, you could really kill it in a dinner theater show. You can do the best show ever. Yeah. And then Tony and Angela are driving home from the dinner theater, and Tony says to Angela, that dinner theater actor was pretty good, but boy, did I like the chicken.
Yeah, that was a darn good prime rib, I'm telling you. Yeah, you get compared with it.
Right. But I mean, we joke around, but I mean, dinner theater is good because it brings the masses, the people that may not go see a show, into a venue, and it kind of trains the audience to appreciate live theater.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And I get a lot of actors that come to me and they say, well, I only want to do film acting. All right. Well, acting is acting is acting. Foundationally, it's all the same. So you might want some experience in live theater. So that was the main reason that I wanted to create a theater in my space. I seat 75 people, which is kind of a really nice number. But these people, sometimes they get up here for the very first time and they perform live, and afterwards they're like, I'm high as a kite. I never thought I would love that so much. I'm like, isn't it amazing? And it prepared you even more for the film acting and the commercial acting, and the things that I cast a lot of are a lot of commercials. But it prepares you for everything.
Now, you say film acting and theater acting is acting is acting.
Yeah.
Are there subtle nuances, differences that you explore with people when you teach?
It really is how far you throw the energy.
Okay.
Because the energy has to stay the same. Because people think that's less energy in front of the camera, but you and I both know that the camera can literally rob you of energy and suck that energy out of you. So you still have to have that same internal energy. It's just that how far you throw it needs to be a little bit pulled back.
I think Michael Caine said that acting in theater is with a scalpel, and on film is a laser.
Yes, that's very true.
Yeah.
It's very true, but it's still the same thing. You still have to make choices about your character. You still have to commit to your character, and you still have to follow through with your character.
Right, nice. And this is because you mentioned the West Coast, and you do kind of have a West Coast vibe, which I appreciate because I love California. I love California. But I think when I think of acting, great teachers, I think of sometimes on the West Coast you have your Eric Morris, and then on the East Coast you have maybe Uta Hagen or something like that.
Who I had the great fortune to study under, actually in California many years ago, and Lee Strasberg and various people like that, because they were in California in the West Hollywood area. So when I was with Paramount, they made me work with all these people. Oh my God, it was a pleasure. It was great.
Tell us some of those stories, because we could. I mean, that's just epic.
Well, recently we brought in. Steve Blackwood from Days of Our Lives, who came and taught a class for me. And the one thing we had in common is we both worked with Uta Hagen at one point in our lives, and we both have like really fond memories of that being real turning points for both of us as far as kind of getting it, finally getting whatever it was, because you can learn so many things foundationally. But sometimes it just takes that one person that can really connect with you, so it all sort of falls into place. And I know myself as an actor, my ability became much stronger when it was suggested that I direct something. And once I started directing, suddenly I understood acting so much better because I had a different perspective on it. So I learned that from those people. And Lee Strasberg the same way. You know, be aware of yourself, be aware of your place in your space, pretty much.
Nice.
So, pretty exciting.
I was lucky enough to work under Barry Primus, who was on Cagney and Lacey.
Yep.
And he had worked with Uta, and that was just an honor to be associated in some 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon type of way, you know, with her.
Yes,
you know.
yes. Well, you're celebrating 50 years, 50 episodes, and I'm celebrating 50 years. So I've worked with a lot of people.
That's great.
Which is hard to believe because I'm only 47.
I know. I hear you. Well, you look fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
We're talking about, you know, but like I said, that West Coast sunshine must have done well by
That's
you.
it. And all my friends in California, they're like, aren't you always cold there in the East? The funny thing is I'm never cold. And yet
Right.
the people that lived here their whole lives, they're always freezing.
Right. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, you're the man in black, so.
That's, yeah, well, you know, it's my birth sign. I'm a triple Scorpio, and we're attracted to black, so I don't know. I tend to wear a lot of black.
What does triple Scorpio mean? Real
It
quick?
means that my sun and my moon's also in Scorpio, which is like 1 in 25 million people have a triple sign.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's
yeah. I
interesting.
love when I'm casting and somebody's trying to get a role and they'll say, hey, you know, when were you born in this? I'll do your chart. And I always let them. They always come back with that same look. Do you know you're, well, yeah, triple Scorpio. They go, I'm like, I'm not scary, really.
That's funny. I was going to ask before, is there a difference in approach geographically between the West Coast of the United States and the East Coast of the United States, or is that me just thinking too much here?
You know, I honestly, I don't think there's ever a difference because I think everyone's got to kind of find their own style, whatever works.
Right.
But I know that when I moved to the East Coast, even though I'm kind of a Cal Yorker, because growing up I traveled between California and New York doing shows and working on commercials and things. But when I moved to the East Coast, suddenly people on the East Coast thought I knew something that they didn't know because I was from California. But if you're in California and you get someone from, say, the East Coast, they think you know something that they don't know. But really, it's, you know, acting is acting, directing is directing. It's really about getting an end result that you desire.
That's right. Acting is about getting the end result that you desire. People
Yeah.
should listen to that. I mean, that's great. And for me, you know, having you here is a real honor because people, I think, you know, the actors out there, people want to be actors, they really have to take the training seriously, and I dare say more seriously than they are. For me as an acting coach, sometimes it's frustrating because
Right.
you have the students who they want to take 1 or 2 classes and then they're
And
done.
then they're buying headshots.
Right.
And they're actors. Like, really? Is that? I'm still working at it, and I've been doing it for 50 years.
Right, and what people have to realize is you want to go to a weight room and do 50 pounds on the bench press, and then the next week do 65 pounds, and then say, okay, I'm a weightlifter. You know?
Well, I'm a coach to a lot of people that, unfortunately, I can't say who they are. Some of my students know who they are because they've seen them at the studio. But I coach, I privately coach people that have had their own TV shows, that do films, that do whatever. And the smart thing that they know is you never stop learning.
Right.
And so, like, yeah, I've even been a little intimidated by some of these people that have been, you know, nominated for major awards, and they come and work with me, and I think, nope. I've got something and they can teach me something. So when I work with them, it's always a win-win situation because we're all there. You know, my one, I don't know if you remember this, but in my studio on my door, it says, leave your ego at the door.
Right.
And as long as people leave their ego at the door, we can all learn something.
That's
you
great.
know? Because I run across a lot of people that say, well, you know, I can act, it's easy, it's whatever. I'm like, well, you know, okay, but it's, you know, it is a business. It's called show business for a reason. It's kind of like saying, well, you know, someone told me I look like a doctor, so I think I'll go perform a surgery, or I look like an attorney, so maybe I should try a case. You know, you learn your craft, you learn your business, so you're always learning.
Yeah, what you said makes so much sense to me because a lot of people, it is frustrating for me as an acting coach, maybe for you as well, when you hear folks who think it's so easy. They have no idea. They have no idea how hard it is. You know,
Yep.
as you, as basically a sensei of acting, having directed, having done live theater, having casting, directing, you get it, all aspects. And that's,
Well, I
you know,
appreciate you saying that, and I always feel like I'm a student. I'm a student of life, I'm a student of acting, I'm a student of directing, and I always just go out and try to learn more. I do the best I can, and I try to impart that on the people, that you're always learning, and you're always going to be better, because if you stop learning, you're done. And the people that tell me, well, you know, I don't need acting classes, well, fine, then go get a TV series or go star in a movie or, you know, whatever. And being a casting person, I see it every
Right.
day, because people audition for me all the time. You know, people don't listen, they don't follow direction, they don't have the first idea on how to make, you know, a choice as far as a character goes. And there's kind of a running joke right now that, and I've discussed this with other directors, and I tell my students this: when you give a bad audition, we typically all give you the same kiss of death. We don't mean to, it just happens, and that's thank you, real high. Thank you. And if you ever hear anyone say thank you,
You're in
that
trouble.
means not good. It happened to me once because I didn't follow directions, and I remember, oh, thank you.
the jab in the heart. For the layman out there, and what we were talking about with our previous guest today, like for someone out there who is thinking, gee, I'd like to get into acting, I'd like to work with Reno, I'd like to get involved in the mix, whether it's in New England or anywhere, what's the first step? What do they do?
Well, I mean, the first thing is to find someone to work with seriously, wherever you are, that you feel comfortable with and you believe has your best interest in mind. And that's pretty easy to figure out if you just pay attention to people when you talk to them. As far as reaching me, I'm super easy to find. I have a website called theactorsgym.net. And on Facebook, we have about 2,800 followers on the Actors Gym group page. And so a lot of people are networking on there and talking about what's going on in their area, whether it's Massachusetts or New York or it's Rhode Island or whatever. I tend to get around. I tend to lecture all over. I lecture in California, at Yale University, my own school. I teach in New York. I'm kind of all over. But I'm going to say, get out there and at least start networking, because, you know, the old line is they don't cast a lot of Broadway shows from your basement. So
There you go. Yeah, you can't sit there in your basement. And I literally had a student who was doing this, and he was in a state of depression because he was in his basement watching old black and white movies.
Yeah.
And just zoning into these young guy too, watching these black and white movies and just really not feeling good about himself because he wanted to act. And I said, man, just get out of that basement.
You
know?
got to get out there, and you just got to start doing it. And you know, it's really nice. I've never advertised ever.
Right.
I've never advertised the Actors Gym, and we're full up all the time, which is so flattering to me. I always feel really privileged that these people come and see me.
Yep.
But the New York Times actually wrote about me a couple of times. But the thing they called me was an actor's advocate, and honestly, I can't ask for anything better. Because in real life, in this business, people take a lot of hits. There's a lot of people that can criticize you behind your back, and I get it. I have taken more, you know, shots than Bonnie and Clyde, and you know what? That's fine with me. You do your thing, and I'll keep doing what I love every day. And I can sleep at night with a clear conscience because I know that I always have the actor's best interest in mind. So again, find somebody that cares about you, that really has the same passion that you do, or can at least help ignite that passion, you know, inspire you.
That's great. Okay, I'm going to ask you a tough question.
Uh-oh.
What's your greatest accomplishment, Reno, so far? Because there's more, there's big ones, that maybe the greatest ones yet to come. But what, so far, you think about something, says, you know, and you just feel, I feel good about what I did here.
I'm going to say starting the Actors Gym, because I feel like I've inspired the most people that way. And I have a lot of people that are, one of my actors years ago, he was a new actor, he was standing in my parking lot, and he was so shy that I couldn't hear him speak. It literally took a couple of years of working with him, and then he really got the fire, who just ended up in a supporting role on Law and Order.
Wow.
So stories like, and I have a lot of stories like that. I have a little girl on Broadway, you know, who did Mary Poppins, and I had somebody who did a starring role in Rent. They were my actors, and I have to say, that's my greatest accomplishment, is that these people are inspired, and they're going out there and they're inspiring other people.
Exactly, I was just going to say that. The people, the little girl and the actor who got on Law and Order, they might have a cousin who wants to be an actor, and then they say, well, geez, if my cousin can do it, and then they start taking classes, and they do things the right way and get in the mix, and then it just, and for even the person watching, the inspiration for the viewer.
Right,
You know, the trickle-down
exactly.
theory, it just pays it forward.
Now, hopefully my son doesn't get upset that I didn't say he was my greatest, but he was pretty cool too.
And you were saying you have a nice family, and just,
Yep,
you know, you have,
I do. Yeah, my son, he's got 6 kids, and that one of them just had a child, so that must hard to believe again because I'm only 40-something.
Yes, right. Exactly.
I was 3 when I started.
Lucky kid. Nice. What else can we talk about? Because there's so many things. I mean, directed and produced short and NEAT One Act Play Festival. Tell me.
Well, when I first moved here, I decided I retired from acting about 13 years ago, and I decided I wasn't going to act anymore. So I retired, and that lasted about 8 minutes. So I found, after I moved here from the West Coast, I found an organization called the New England Academy of Theater, and they were in their first year of producing a one-act festival for the Festival of Arts and Ideas. And so the very first year, they called me in and they said, hey, would you mind directing a show? I said, yeah, no problem. Well, the fellow who started it had been on a soap opera for years, Jerry Prell, and we'd actually worked together, but I didn't remember that for some reason. Anyway, I ended up taking over that organization, and I ended up producing that festival for 6 years.
Wow.
And we would produce 20 original one-act plays for every festival, so that was quite a bit.
20 original one-act plays. I mean,
Yes.
just, you know, to me, it's mind-boggling to even choose if there was a submission process.
There was.
Okay, so then you've got maybe 100, 200 plays coming through your
Yep.
desk, and you got to sit there and read them, or have a panel of judges, and that's a lot of reading.
It
And
was a
that's-
lot.
Right.
It was a lot of work. But the beauty of it, though, is I found some really amazing authors who then started writing plays for me, just for me to
Nice.
direct. So that connection was really, really great. And one of the shows that I directed off Broadway was called Calamity Jane Sends a Message to Her Daughter. And then we actually did it. We did it in California. We've done it all over that place. And then she wrote another play called The Parmigiani Belle, which I also directed, and it just took off. It did so well. So that was a great connection for me to sort of, you know, bring in these new writers, showcase their talents, and in turn, I ended up, you know, networking with these amazing, talented people that said, hey, let's work together. So
That's got to feel great.
it does.
Yeah,
it's
Reno.
great.
I mean, just so many things going on here. What do you want to talk about? We've got about 2.5 minutes left, so you tell me whatever you want.
Well, I'm going to say, you know, the other side of me is I always started off as an actor, and as I said, I stopped acting for a number of years, and I sort of got pulled into acting again because doing Pleading Sanity, all my actors said, well, why don't you do something? So
Right.
I did a little minor role as this crazy old bum that everybody they remember him, they love him, they're like, we feel so bad about this particular character. When you watch it, you'll know why. Character ended up coming back in a flashback. So that's sort of what got me back into acting. In the meantime, somebody was doing the ABCs of Death and asked me to play a killer maestro. So I got to tell you, M is for Maestro, which is online, was so fun to do, a 3-minute movie. So it sort of got me inspired. And then just recently, I played in a film opposite Charlie Tacker, who
Oh,
everybody
young-
knows him.
yes.
I'm his coach, and if you ask him who his coach is, you know, I just love this kid. I love him
Yeah.
with all my heart. But we played opposite each other in a film that's in post right now. So I'm going to say that I'm kind of excited to be acting again. Not that I'm going to do everything that comes along, but you know, after teaching for so many years and casting for so many years, it's kind of nice to maybe prove to my actors that yeah, I don't just teach.
Well, you know, it's interesting you said that because, you know, as a teacher of anything, sometimes people neglect, like, hey, I know what I'm doing too.
Right.
You know, and so then it's good for you, and as an emotional payoff even, to be able to act and get your face in front of the camera a little
Absolutely.
bit. It feels good.
Well, that's where the hair came about. That's the new look. I grew it for a film, so I used that. And of course, now I'm growing it for another cause. But
Let's talk about that real quick. You were going to mention that. Yeah.
well, I started growing my hair for a film, and I thought at my age, while I can still grow hair, I might as well grow it long enough to donate for cancer. You know, that's a very important subject for a lot of us. It's hit home very close with us. So
Yeah.
I've had people say, why do you grow your hair long? You look ridiculous. And I'm like, well, you know, it's my walk, and I'm doing it for a cause. So that's the reason.
That's great. So the people maybe think about doing that themselves. If they have hair that can grow out, they
Absolutely.
can donate to cancer. I like, just as we wrap up, what you said, my walk. And
My walk.
what a journey you're having. It's just awesome.
And I met people like you. I've met some really amazing people while being here in the East Coast, and I see that this talent is scattered out all over the place. So I like personally being able to travel. You know, everything's close in the East Coast. It's fun to be able to travel from state to state and network with you and meet new talent all the time. I love it.
Thanks, Reno. Well, thanks for coming
Thank
up to
you, sir.
Seekonk.
My
To
pleasure.
the Short Film Showcase. This has been a great 50th anniversary episode of the Short Film Showcase. We want to thank Elaine Victoria Gray and our recent guest Reno Venturi for coming on and talking about the entertainment business. I'd like to thank some people as we celebrate our 50th anniversary. Our great producers here at the studio, Seekonk TV9, Cody Peixoto, and Jeff Fountain. Great guys that have helped us with our show so many times. And thanks to our producer, Brian Casey, whose idea it was 2.5 years ago to have the Short Film Showcase. For Short Film Showcase, I'm Mike Messier reminding you, if you can dream it, shoot it.